The United States looks like a country that's lost a war. We got 1 million people dead of drug overdoses in the last 15 years, and we've got an industrial base that's been severely damaged, not by war, but by trade war. And if we go back to 1945, you had millions of people dead from literal war, and then you had industrial bases that were destroyed by literal war, not trade war. And so there was sort of a boom in the aftermath of World War II where the US rebuilt the world. And there were two, poles, if you will, right? The Soviets sort of built their sphere of influence and we built our sphere of influence. And, maybe we get two spheres of influence like that again. That's entirely possible. But part of it is the US is reprising the role of Europe there. Like, we need someone to come build stuff for us because we really can't on our own. And so I think there's a goal to try to get the Japanese and the South Koreans to do it. It's gonna be really hard without the Chinese. So it's this dissonance of, well, we don't want to completely decouple from the Chinese. We just want to decouple the way we want to decouple. And some of it is just, look, the US has been left in a really bad position by really dumb decisions for 30 years by its leaders. Dumb / greedy / short-sighted. And so, like, that's, what is globalization? Now, the traditional flow of what we've done, that is, I think, absolutely dead. This sort of, hey, we send dollars and they recycle the dollars into our financial markets, so China ends up owning, providing all our defense and owning all of our stocks, wrought to its natural, in extremis conclusion. Like, I don't think like that's over. But there's still parts of the US, as we've seen in the last week, it's like, well, we want to be, sort of half pregnant. We want some of that, but not all of that. And, the reality is that you can't be half pregnant. You're either pregnant or you're not. And you're either going to connect with them or you're not, because the dollars are fungible, right? You can't say, well, those dollars are only good for this. No, not unless you put up capital controls, and you can't have capital controls between the global reserve currency and the world's factor, China. Like, you put up capital controls that are too much, you're not the reserve currency anymore. And that to me, again, you kind of tie it back. It's like, you're going to have to net settle in gold. Maybe someday Bitcoin, but it keeps going back to the system needs to change. If we don't want the Chinese recycling into our markets, and they're not dumb enough to just buy treasuries, because we need negative real rates on treasuries. We can't afford it without, and they're not dumb enough to stockpile negative real rate treasuries, then you're going to have to do something to change the system to kind of balance those two competing needs.